Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today on our latest Seed podcast. And today I am delighted to be sharing the mic with the wonderful Elvira Capone. Elvira is a complementary therapist and she does some really interesting and important work out in the community, working at a hospice in North London as a complementary therapist, among other things. And we thought it would be really interesting to have this conversation because there's something about, we don't discuss end of life and death, particularly in our culture. It's not part of, our day to day. And so it's just lots of people don't really know how to have those conversations and even how to navigate this stage of life. So we thought it'd be really interesting to kind of speak to Elvira and get a little bit of an insight into the day in the life of somebody who works there in the capacity of therapist. Among other things, there's quite a lot that we're going to be talking about today, actually. So let's just dive in. So first off, I'm going to introduce you, Elvira. Hello.
Hi everyone. Hi, Kate. Good morning.
Thank you for joining us. And it's really interesting because obviously you and I have been talking a little bit
Mm,
leading up to this podcast. And in the discussions we're having, you say that while a lot of people assume that you must have a really difficult job, or tough, challenging, you actually love working within the hospice environment. So I think that's also a really,
mm,
a key point that we want to dive into a little bit. So
mhm,
yeah, let's just first off talk about what led you into what led you into this world.
mhm, mhm. So I have always wanted to work in a hospice. And so what led me into this world is something very deeply personal, but also professional. So my mother actually passed away at the hospice that I work for, coming up to 12 and a half years ago. So I got to experience firsthand how important it was to, be in an environment at such a sacred time of someone's life with their family, and for it to be a place where peaceful for people and a place where a lot of comfort was provided. So it's always will have a special bond in my heart. But also, I am also a speech and language therapist. So I've been in the NHS for coming up to 20 years. I left that position to move over to the hospice, and in that role, I was working with people that have degenerative conditions and in palliative care. And I've always been drawn to holding space for people. And what I mean by that is, deeply listening to them without judgment and just helping them and supporting them, navigating really challenging times in their life. So for me, moving on to the hospice was just a natural step in my career, and I feel very fortunate and very blessed that I can actually do a little bit of everything. So
Okay, so
complementary
when we talk about,
therapy.
yeah, so what exactly are you doing?
So well, it's quite a big role. So I am a complementary therapist there, and I work supporting people. I provide therapy, so I do Reiki. So I'm a Reiki master. I teach and facilitate meditation. So I will often talk people through a guided meditation. I do sound healing, so with the crystal bowls, Indian head massage, and some hand therapy, so some gentle touch hand therapy. I also will consult and advise on, if there are questions in terms of people that have difficulty with their communication and their eating and drinking, because that is what a speech and language therapist does. And I also manage the Living Well team there. So the outpatient service, consists of other therapists, so psychology, physiotherapists, and I job share there. So we manage the Living Well team, where the ethos actually is to support people, going back to what you were saying, to live well, even at the end of their life. Um, so, yeah, a little bit of everything.
So when you say outpatient, what do you mean by that?
So what I mean by that is people come in to see me. So you have the inpatient unit, and that is where people will often go to manage their symptoms and are very much at the end of life. So that's where people can die in a hospice. We also have an outpatient team, and that is where, that will consist of the community nurses. So they will also go out and see people in their homes. That is part of hospice care, providing symptom management. And then there's outpatients, and that's where people will come into us, and I will do complementary therapy there. So I will see people that have a significant serious illness, but also their carers and their family.
Okay, so
I
you're
will
kind
offer
of,
the treatments there as well. But I will also go on to the inpatient unit, as I said.
gosh, so you're caring for quite a lot of people, really, aren't you?
Quite a
People
lot, yeah. But I
inside,
love it.
outside, and also the carers, which is something that we love to do at
Yeah,
Seed. You're caring for the
yeah.
carers.
It's
So,
very important to look after the people who are looking after someone. And I
yeah,
think it's fair to say that, probably at some point in our life, we've all been in that role, regardless of whether that, it's not just about looking after someone who's seriously ill. That could be, a mother, a father, a child, a spouse. So I think we've all been in that caring role and we know the challenges that, that we're faced. So imagine, if you're supporting someone living through a terminal illness, it's very big. The load that they're holding is very big.
yeah, no, absolutely.
Mm,
And I have been there as well, actually. So, and I think, like you
yeah.
say, a lot of people, not everybody, but a lot of people have. And if they haven't, then they will. Um,
Well,
and
yes. Yeah.
and it's something you can't really describe, isn't is it, until you're there. So
Yeah, definitely.
so what is it like to work with people who are at end of life, in your role as a practitioner?
It's absolutely beautiful. For me, it's a great privilege. I think there's a big misconception that hospice care is a place, and I mean, when I mean hospice care, I mean it broadly. So, not just on the inpatient unit and outpatients or in the community. There's a big misconception that it's just a place of darkness and where you're supporting, you're around people that are crying all the time. But that isn't the case at all, actually. And what I like, for me, it's a great honor and a privilege because it's a place of love and warmth and actually lots of laughter. So, I meet the most incredible people, not just the patients and their family, but also staff, and the stories that we share and the experiences that we share. It's really, I call it magical, and people, and it's quite hard to kind of perceive that idea because, and I often get asked, but how can working in a hospice be magical? I'm like, because it really is. For those reasons, there's laughter, there's love, there's warmth, and there isn't something that, there's no superficiality. So people are very, very present. And when you're in that moment, so not specific building, because a hospice isn't just a specific building, it's care, it's wider care. And when you're with these people, the world around you stops and you're very, very present and that for me is what it means to be in the moment with that person. And for me, like the reason I feel really grateful is because I learn a lot. So yes, I give a lot, but actually in return, I learn a lot. And part of that is resilience and to be able to surrender and not to sweat the small stuff, which I think is something that I'm guilty of sometimes. And I think we're all guilty of that sometimes. So it's, when people say it puts things into perspective, yes, it does, but not in a heavy way, in a very light way. Because the key message I want to share with people is it's a place of love and warmth. It's not, depressing. It's not dark. It's not somber. And there's a certain energy to it and you can feel it. And it's the most amazing place to work. So I feel really privileged.
It's just amazing. It's beautiful. And I think this is the message, isn't it? This is why I wanted to talk to you
Yeah.
about it, just to
Yeah.
really, yeah. Okay, so what surprised you most, if anything, when you started working there?
Well, it's very much what I said. It's vibrant. I had the personal experience of having my mum pass away there. And even in that, as the carer, let's just say, it never felt heavy to me. Even though, myself and my family were going through that really difficult time, it's very vibrant. And what surprises me the most is the resilience of human spirit and how actually when we're faced with adversity, there are moments where we break down and we really think that we can't cope and that we never will be able to cope. Somehow we do. And so for me, that message is just, holding on to that we are resilient, even if we don't think we are. And I have, had the privilege of supporting, families and people through very challenging times. But it's amazing how people do manage. So for me going in, I'm not Elvira, the complementary therapist, I consider myself as a companion, a soul with no agenda other than just to connect with that person on a real, genuine level. And I think it's the same for all of us in the hospital, in the hospice, when you're there, there are no labels, there's no titles, there's no, you're not rich, you're not poor, you're not this, you're not your title, you're not your label, you're a person, you're a soul. And that's what I find that's really beautiful.
It's quite
It's
profound. I mean, what
Yeah,
environment would you ever be in, ever? You know, where all that stuff is totally stripped away. I can't
exactly.
think of maybe on a battlefield, but that's kind of the same thing. It's that facing
Yeah,
death, I suppose.
yeah.
I mean, yeah, that's I think that's like you're talking about the magic. I guess that's
Well, that is the magic, because you realise what's important. And for me, if I was to sum it up, it is connection. It's human connection. It's being really genuine, and there's a real rawness there, but beautiful.
no,
That is
wow,
the magic behind it. That
yeah,
because what you're experiencing in that moment is that person.
yeah, with no
And I've
mask,
had,
yeah,
it makes me think of a particular lady who's passed away now, who I really connected with. Um, and it was exactly that. I knew her background. Obviously, we read the notes before we go in, so I knew what cancer she had. I knew a little bit about her family background, but it was just completely stripped off the moment that I stepped into the room. And we had the most amazing conversations, and her experience, because she told me how actually when you're faced with death, when you're reaching the end of your life, when you're living with an illness, that's when you remember actually that nothing actually matters. She's like, don't sweat the small stuff. Speak your truth. Know when to step back. And so it's the lessons that I learn from these people that I work with and the staff actually that I then take in my work outside the hospice, because obviously, I do complementary therapy outside the hospice, and I do, Reiki sound baths and wellness events, that I will share that. And so I feel that for me, in a sense, it's like their legacy is living on, and they're people that we don't know, because you can't name people. Obviously, there's confidentiality, but it's like these little lights. This is how I like to think of it, all connected, and their legacy lives on, and we're all learning from each other, even beyond death. And that's the magic for me.
oh, I love this. Okay, so how do you see the people that you're treating? Obviously, you're saying you treat them with Reiki, sound, meditation. What else?
Indian head
Indian
massage.
head
Yeah.
massage. I knew I was missing one. How do you see that benefiting them?
Well, it does profoundly on a physical and an emotional level. So what happens is the parasympathetic nervous system is activated. And so when people are in that set state sense of calm, pain management, um, I don't want to say succeeds, it helps with pain management.
Yeah.
I've noticed in particularly people that might have respiratory problems that are at the end of their life, but also maybe there because of their respiratory condition, their breathing calms. So you'll go in and they'll physically be visibly struggling to breathe, but after the complementary therapy, what I've noticed is it's a lot calmer and the pace is regular. It helps with anxiety management. And often people are saying to me, and again, they're at the end of their life with carrying very heavy things. They'll say, I feel like a whole load has been lifted. I feel like I'm floating. I slept well, so improved sleep. Um, so there's loads. I mean, I could really go into it, but it really is beneficial, so physically but also emotionally. And I would say that it helps people to, because they're self-connecting with themselves, it's self-connection, that at times I think talking therapy is very important, absolutely important, and we offer that there as well, but sometimes people don't always want to talk. And so just allowing them that space to self-connect can help them process how they're feeling. And how that can help people at the end of their life is, they will make certain decisions about how they want to be managed when death is near in terms of their symptom management. Or, some people who are discharged home we call it advanced care planning. So make decisions about, for example, their preferred place of death, um, tying things up with family members at the end, thinking about relationships, thinking about, things that they might want to say. So it's so profound. And it's so simple.
How do people, bearing in mind that, complementary has also
Mm.
been known as alternative, and I don't like to use that word because we are mainstream as well.
Yeah,
We're
yeah.
on the different side
It's
of the
just
coin.
different, isn't
It's
it?
just
Yeah.
different. Yeah, it's not alternative. It's just different. It's another route to
Mm.
healthcare management at the end of the day.
Yeah.
How, and obviously wellness is booming, has been
Mm.
for the last few years. But how do people view what you do within, like from a professional, like the professionals that you work with, and even the public? How do they view it?
Very well, actually. So modern hospice care is very integrative. So what I mean by that is the clinical staff, the doctors, the consultants will refer to me, and they're absolutely happy that I'm there, as will the other allied health professionals, because they are witnessing the benefits of it. So if you imagine clinical care, which is very important, but it's very fast paced, there's tests, there's assessments, there's questions that need to be answered. I do something different. I will go into the room and I provide a sanctuary. So it is an adjunct, and there's a lot of respect for, within the teams and within staff and from the patients for each other. So I am an adjunct to them, even though I'm in my own right doing something very different. So I will go in, and the sanctuary that I provide is that connection, but I will take people on a journey. So I will, dim the lights. I have special lighting that I bring, sound. So it's very different, but it's very well respected. And often I found that so for example, recently there was a case where there was a patient that was very much struggling emotionally with high levels of anxiety. And the doctors were managing that the best that they could, with some medication. But then the consultant actually knocked on my door and said, "I think it would really help us, if there's anything that you could do to see this person, because we think that X, Y, and Z." And very similarly in the community, so in the other side of that, so that's on the inpatient unit. On the other side, I've had referrals from social workers, asking me to see carers and family members who are struggling. So just to provide that sense of release and relief for them. So there's a lot of mutual respect, I would say,
That's really good to
for
hear.
each other's profession, and integration, which is what
Yeah,
you need. There's a multidisciplinary team working, and it works really well.
amazing, absolutely amazing. And this is the
Mm.
goal in terms of what we do at Seed as well. It's that integrative approach. Just that
And
we,
I just want to add, actually, because for me, it's very important to mention, especially the nurses who are outstanding and who are will always refer, and they are little angels without wings. So they'll go in and they will spend time with patients, but they are really busy. So they will earmark and say, I've seen, patient in bed, in room, whatever. I think, if you could go in, but I want to mention them especially because they are angels without wings. I mean, they all are in the hospice, right from the cleaners to the volunteers to the staff to every single department. I don't want to miss everybody out, but they're all angels.
yeah, I mean, our caring profession is full of heart-led people. That's, in
Yeah,
COVID times, we were
yeah,
celebrating and applauding that, and then a lot
mm,
more than we would normally.
mm,
But that
yeah.
care continues. So how, you build relationships and connections with people. How do you manage emotionally when they're gone?
Yeah, that's a really good question, Kate. I get asked that quite a lot. Obviously, for me, my self practice is really important. So I do a lot of Reiki on myself and meditation to help clear my energy and ground me. But it is hard, and I won't lie. I know that often, maybe some practitioners might say, "Well, you've got to detach." I don't believe that, because I feel if you're connected, there's that connection, but there is returning to your own energy. So for me, what I try to do is not focus on the loss. And actually, I reframe it and say to myself, like I was saying to you earlier, I see myself as a companion for these people, at a really sacred and difficult time at the end of their life. So rather than focusing on the fact that, that they're gone, I choose to focus on how grateful I am and privileged that I actually got to meet them. So I'll always say to myself, it is sad, and that sadness never goes away. And I don't think we can pretend that, it should, because grief is, grief doesn't go away. And even as professionals, we do grieve, the people that we work with, because, we've had that intimate connection. But actually, I just think what a privilege that I got to support them at the end of their life, but also that I got to meet them. I got to spend time with their family. I got to see all their photos. I've actually got goosebumps when I'm talking about it, because I really feel it. And so if you imagine you're in their room, or they'll come to see you and they give you a piece of their life, and that vulnerability and that connection is very, very special. So I try and focus on that, and just remember, I am there, I'm a companion, and I'm there, and I walk them, to the end, and sometimes beyond that, because grief doesn't stop there. So I try to focus on that, but I do my own self-practice as well. So I just ground to ground myself.
Okay.
And
So,
just,
you're obviously there in lots of different capacities. So, have you got any plans to develop further what you're doing?
I have, and it makes me smile, because it makes me think of the person that I job share with in the Living Well side. And we always talk about how I'm very creative, and my mind is always buzzing with ideas. So what I would like to do, so we've already started to offer, I'm really keen on upskilling people. So yes, I'm the complementary therapist, but the hospice actually runs because of our volunteers as well. So there are many volunteers that we have, and I'm supporting them, just to provide gentle hand massage, just, because it's therapeutic touch, and that has, such a big difference. And I hope to expand that in the future. I would like to start offering groups. So bringing what I do, outside privately, inside. So like the Reiki sound baths, where you do, the playing the sound bowls, offering Reiki, not just to patients and carers, but staff, because it's very important for them to, to be able to release as well. I would like to, in somewhere in the future, I don't know where, be able to have discussions and explore the idea of bringing the hospice, well, complementary therapy, because the hospice, you do have home care, but not complementary therapy. And I don't know how that would work, because at the moment it is just me and I've got one volunteer. But I would like to see hospice care branch out into the community with complementary therapy. So bringing wellness
Yeah.
at home for those who need it. And
Yeah.
I'm also looking at training to actually do body massage generally, and then move on further from that to do, specialist cancer massage, and, massage for other conditions, so that I could offer something additional there. Okay. So I try to kind of bring myself down. Vicky, my job, she always says, okay, just, one step at a time. But, I think it's just about growth, really. And, as I was saying to you earlier, probably, I can't remember whether I mentioned it here or whether it was what we were talking about, in the lead up to this. For me, it's about supporting people to live well. And that's why I applied for that job, in the Living Well team, to support people to live well as best as they can.
For as long as they can.
Yeah, for as long as they can.
Yeah.
It's just thinking about, what does that look like? Yeah. And collaborating with other wellness practitioners. I just really want to kind of, spread the word.
So you're working, obviously, within the hospice, and you're also working outside the hospice as a Reiki master. So what are you offering outside the hospice in terms of therapies?
So I do offer one-to-ones, complementary therapies. I also run workshops and groups. So I do Reiki sound bath regularly in a wellness centre. I also collaborate, with a dancing instructor. We do dance and wellness workshops.
Nice.
So there are lots. There's lots that I do outside.
Okay. Well, this is good to know as well, because obviously on the WellVal website there is there's an app as well, the WellVal app, so people can get access to these workshops and events that you're running through the calendar, or they can just tap in what they're looking for and it will come up in your area. You're in North London, aren't you? And are you located? All your events and workshops are all kind of around there?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So they're all North London, so it's all local to people there. So is there anything else that you wish to add or share?
I think for me, Kate, it's just, on the topic of the hospice, I just want to share, with people that if you are afraid, because lots of people hear the word hospice and think that it's just a place that people go to die. I would like to encourage people to rethink that and actually think it's about living well at the end of your life, with dignity, with peace, and having comfort. So living the best that you can. And hospice care is not just about death and dying. It's about living well.
It's about life.
It's about life. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And also just to encourage anyone who's never had complementary therapy before, uh, or even wider than that, beyond complementary therapy, anyone who, at the moment is, struggling, I would say be kind to yourself. And it's okay to take a little bit of time for yourself doing whatever it is that you feel that you need to do. So it might be complementary therapy, it might be, something else, another wellness, workshop, just to do that and just really to enjoy life. Let's not sweat the small stuff.
Absolutely. That's an amazing message to conclude with, by the way. And it's something that we should all be doing daily, reminding ourselves of, that.
The thing is, we're often really hard on ourselves, aren't we? And we're like, oh, we should be doing this, we should be. And I just say, okay, for me, it's about intention. It's having the intention to do it. And as long as you're trying, it's okay. Like if you fail, if it doesn't work, then we just try again and just
Yeah.
be, self-compassion and just being gentle and kind with ourselves
Yeah.
and
It's
just
got to
keep
come from
trying.
us. It's got to come from us first, right? But,
Yeah, exactly.
well, Danny, thank you so much for coming on and
My pleasure.
sharing
Thank you
that,
for having me.
your insights and your experiences. That's really interesting and really helpful. So, thank you to those who have joined us or are going to join us. And if you have any questions, you can find Elvira on the WellVal website, www.wellval.com/practitioners/Elvira Capone. Thank you so much for joining us, Elvira. Thank
Thank
you, and to
you.
those joining
Thanks,
us as
Kate.
well. And we'll speak to you soon.
Thanks.